What is going on, guys? Meteorologist Jonathan Keg is back with you. It's a Monday night. That means it is time for Tropics Watch Live. We're just going to let some extra people join. We have 8 seconds to go on the countdown, and we are going to get into all of this. Thanks for joining the live stream last night. As we were tracking Debby getting stronger en route to Florida, which officially made landfall as a Category 1 hurricane this morning near Steinhatchee, right to the Big Bend. A ton of rain. Have some questions already. Keep the questions coming. If you are a fan of staying up to date on the tropics, you know the drill. Please hit that subscribe button. Share with your friends. We appreciate it. At least give this a thumbs up. It'll help YouTube push this out to more people as we are tracking some pretty critical information on this edition of Tropics Watch Live. We are, of course, going to get into some of the long-range stuff as we typically do. But first and foremost, we are going to get into some of the big-time information on the big flood threat, unfortunately, coming and already being observed in North Florida, parts of Georgia, and the Carolinas already. So here's where we stand right now anyway with Debby. You see all these green boxes popping up. These are flash flood warnings that are already in play for Wheeler County, Georgia, for Evans, Georgia, getting into Bryan, Georgia, McIntosh, Georgia, west of Brunswick. These other smaller boxes are the river flood warnings. Closer to Beaufort, South Carolina, we have flood warnings up. And then we have flood advisories in play right now near Charleston. Those will likely turn into flash flood warnings as we are going to be watching this band here. If anyone remembers Hurricane Joaquin several years ago, same kind of deal here. We watched these fire hose bands develop with a system just pumping in a ton of tropical moisture. And again, that is no doubt going to lead to a ton of flash flooding. So through the course of this live stream, we are going to track Debby. We're going to look at the models. We're going to look at the official forecast. And we are, of course, going to talk about rainfall amounts that are in play. We're going to look at the other system that the National Hurricane Center has highlighted. And then also talk about the 4 named systems that popped up on the Pacific Basin. That is likely a sign of things to come. The mechanism that is responsible for forcing up those tropical systems will be moving in to the Atlantic Basin momentarily. Okay, so we can get back to the radar in just 1 second, but first I want to move this forward if everybody is ready to kind of talk about what Debby is doing. And it's a wild system. This was well forecast, making landfall in the Big Bend of Florida, and then this stall as it's really in no man's land in between a couple of systems. And you see here, still on Thursday, even Friday, we're still talking about Debby. The wind does not even matter anymore at this point. It is all about the rain. Again, hanging around Charlotte, North Carolina still as a tropical depression on Friday. So, I mean, it is Monday evening, and still we are talking about this storm and its rainfall being around the Carolinas, Georgia, parts of Florida, really just meandering up the southeast corner of the U.S., all the way until Thursday and into Friday. In terms of the latest models, everything really picking up on this weird stuff, and you see the kind of zigzagging there between the different models, how it bounces off the east coast of Georgia, then maybe makes another landfall somewhere in Georgia or South Carolina, or a couple of landfalls. Again, that part really doesn't matter. There is just so much moisture with this thing, and we're in that kind of rare designation from the Weather Prediction Center here, NOAA's Weather Prediction Center. And this is for tomorrow because today, of course, is already ongoing. So I wanted to show you tomorrow. And this is where the biggest flood threat goes. It kind of like how the Storm Prediction Center has their elevations from marginal to high risk. It's the same deal with the Weather Prediction Center, NOAA's Weather Prediction Center. They have the marginal risk and then they have the high risk. So whenever you see the purple turn up, you know it's a big deal, and you know with all likelihood that flash flooding is going to be likely in a very, very wide area. So that's going to be from Savannah, Georgia, into Charleston, Statesboro, Hinesville, Summerville, South Carolina, into Myrtle Beach, Florence and Sumter, to Columbia, to Augusta. Really anybody from in the red and purple areas. That's going to be Wilmington, North Carolina, Jacksonville, North Carolina, Fayetteville, North Carolina, maybe even as far north as Greenville. Again, we are in that quote-unquote slight risk. But really, anytime you're in these colors, that means that we're going to be talking about excessive rainfall. I'm kind of going fast here to get through this, and then we're going to we can go back and get everything and redo some things. I'm going to look at comments, but did you see that? I'll replay that. Look at this. This is Monday night, and look at this thing just spin. Look at this. It really doesn't move. And this was our concern if you watched some of our video content last week, how we talked about somewhere along the southeast corner of the U.S. to mid-Atlantic from Florida to North Carolina, this thing is likely going to stall. And as a result, it does this. So we're going to break down the rainfall amounts, and I wanted to get to this part quick, and if anybody wants to go back and look at some of the real-time stuff now, post in the comments, and we can certainly do that. I just wanted to talk about this insane rainfall that's coming down the pipeline, and we're going to bring out the dabber for this. But just south of Wilmington, that's 7 inches, and look at these bright white areas, 21 inches of rain. That's going to be near Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Let's move the map up here, and let's get a little bit closer so we can do some high-level pinpointing here into your neighborhood. Look at this. Near Florence, South Carolina, a foot. Tabor City, about a foot. Near Manning, 18 inches of rain is going to be possible. Sumterville, more than a foot. Charleston and Folly Beach, about a foot. And, I mean, some of these numbers could be overdone, or underdone, I should say. And really anybody in that South Carolina area, we could be talking about maybe 2 feet of rain into Orangeburg as well. That's the model putting about 14, 15 inches of rain. Now we're going to go down further south. This is going to be for Georgia and into southern South Carolina, closer to Hilton Head. Again, about a foot. These numbers are going to be common. Hinesville and Statesboro, 15 inches, 11 inches. Near Sopperton, 11 inches. Vidalia, 8 to 9 inches of rain. So there is a ton of tropical moisture surging through. And really, I mean, I think the Weather Prediction Center doing a good job in highlighting who has the highest potential. Anybody in this yellow shaded area, really from about Fayetteville to Wilmington and then point south to the Atlantic coast, really going to be under the gun for some, again, somebody had commented on a web story, a web article earlier today on our website, and they had mentioned that, catastrophic, that's hyping it. We don't use those words lightly. And I mean, 2 feet of rain is certainly going to bring some catastrophic impacts. We've already had a couple of flash flood emergencies in North Florida, just over the Georgia line. So again, this is something to make sure you're paying attention to. You want to make sure that you've got your weather radio on or your phone on, things like that, because in this case, we're likely going to be talking about several high water rescues and things like that in Georgia and in South Carolina. All right, so I'm going to go to the comment section now. Kind of was just looking things there, kind of glossing things over just a little bit. But I wanted to kind of race through that, and we can go back and do that over. But I wanted to make sure that, I'm sure those watching from Georgia and South Carolina know what is likely coming. But that was important to get to that. That this is not, quote unquote, just a tropical system. When we talk about this season after season, where it's just a Category 1, okay, I'll take it seriously when it's a Cat 3. This is one of those things, almost like a tropical storm Allison in Texas that got retired in 2001, where it made landfall and it sat there. Yes, it was just a tropical storm, but it dropped like 30 plus inches of rain. This could be in the same ballpark as that. Depending upon where those feeder bands or those fire hose bands and all that stuff. So have a question here. Is there any certainty where it goes later in the week? And this is all the way through Thursday. So this goes out through Thursday, and we are keeping it there. I'll show you the latest modeling. I'll bring that part back of the computer, and I'll show you the computer models. So most of them, after kind of spending a week in the Carolinas or 4 or 5 days in the Carolinas, go up towards the northeast. It will be a tropical depression, but yes, some of that moisture does get back into your area. If you're watching from New Jersey, this is going to be the European rainfall. The European goes out a little bit further than the model that I just showed you. So that's going to go out till Friday, and it gets it back up to Virginia Beach. So, I mean, you wouldn't be talking about this getting into the Northeast until next week. The model that I showed you, as I kind of just bounce around as I have different thoughts pop into my head, the model that I just showed you, this is the one that we were using kind of all week. This is our in-house model. So you can't really get this one anywhere online. So that's why it's a good idea to subscribe if you're interested in seeing this for other storms that are likely coming. And again, we'll get into that in just 1 second, some of the uptick in tropical activity that's going to be expected. But this did very, very well with Ian. The south to north moving storms, this particular model does very, very well. And it did very well with the landfall spot of Debby. Almost forgot the name. How could I? But it did very well. So I'm highly confident in these features being picked up accurately because it's diagnosed the steering current, which is pretty much non-existent, and it is done very well out of the Central Florida area. We are based out of Central Florida for those that are watching outside of the Orlando area or Ocala area, Melbourne, Daytona Beach area. It did very well kind of highlighting some of the impacts and some of the waves and the banding features and the gusty winds, things like that. So that's the deal on some of the timeline stuff. I do want to go back to our actual radar, and this is what's happening in real time now. For those that may be watching from the Panhandle, I hope that you guys are doing okay, but I kind of want to show you what this thing did, again, for quote-unquote just a Cat 1, and I keep on saying that kind of to call out some of the people that say that stuff, because this is a high-impact thing, and we all know it's summertime in Florida. It's not cool to have your power out, and we've had reports of wind gusts just under 100 miles an hour around the Perry area and Steenhatchee area, Horseshoe Beach, from the landfall spot. So take a look at this. This is going to be the percentage of the county that is without power. So in and around Mayo, look at that. I mean, we have 85% of the county is without power. 86% of the people without power. And these are the Florida Panhandle counties. We can put on actual numbers, and this is going to be, again, in Marion County, Florida, we have about 12,000 people. I mean, that was in the local Central Florida area, so we've been talking about that. But this is some crazy stuff. Again, around Lake City, about 12,000 people in Alachua County. Into Lake City, around 20,000 people without power. And then closer to Perry, we also have about 20,000 people. Now, the power outages may not be as significant going forward because the wind is obviously backed off a touch because of landfall. But certainly that is what we are dealing with in terms of the power outages. I do want to show you some of the rainfall accumulations over the past 24 hours, and we'll highlight all of this here. So this is going back to 8 o'clock last night. So, I mean, honestly, this is just a 24-hour sliver. It was raining well before the past 24 hours. So we can pull out our dabber again. And again, this is why we're having some issues. And this was even prior to the storm. Yes, it was slowing down, but this was prior to the storm actually stalling out. So this is where we're really going to start to get ourselves into some trouble as the storm itself slides up into Jessup, into Savannah, into Brunswick, and then eventually into South Carolina over the next couple of days. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start to pull in some comments here so that we can get the conversation going, and then we'll get deeper, or then we'll get into the kind of okay, what is next part. This is obviously a big deal here when we're talking about the system itself moving up. Hey, New Smyrna Beach, appreciate you guys as well. Thank you for watching. And if you are not a News 6 viewer, tune in to News 6 because we are in you are in our area. You can get our signal. So hopefully you tune in to us. Let's see here. Hey, Morbit in Jamaica, hope you are doing well. Crazy 100-meter dash the other day. Talk about that. That was insane. So Steven mentioned, I remember when Florence hit North Carolina, Noah's statement was unsurvivable storm surge. That got people's attention. Yeah, and I mean, again, it's those types of words are really not thrown around by, there are hypers on YouTube that I will 100% admit I've seen it before. But when you see that from a local news organization, a trusted local news organization, or certainly NOAA saying stuff like that, then you know that there will be that the potential for that to happen is there. Downtown St. Augustine has not lost power. That is good. I am glad. Melissa, yeah, your guys are going to get a few more scattered showers out of this. But the main stuff is going to be to the north of New Smyrna Beach. Let's see here. You got it. Thank you for being on the stream. All right, so keep your questions coming. And again, you guys can dictate what we do with this, of course. This is why we're here. And if you are just joining us, and if you're just finding us for the first time, let me know if you are a first-time viewer. And I'd appreciate if you hang out with us. We love having this conversation and talking about the weather. Love hanging out with you guys. Although, again, I said it last night when we were live for several hours that I wish it was under better circumstances. All right, Stargazer 46-2 says, I live near Savannah. It's a freaking mess for real. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. We can get back to the live radar here. Let me get to the national U.S. radar, and that's what we're talking about. So we're kind of in a break, relatively speaking. But let me put this into motion over the last hour. And this is what we're really concerned with. The center is going to be right here, okay? And this big fire hose feeder band. Not only could there be embedded supercells, and I've already seen a couple here, so there could be some tornado producing cells within that line. But the main deal is just going to be, I mean, we're going to focus this right on Beaufort into Charleston, Seabrook Island, around Hilton Head. This is where I would really be concerned about those big-time flash flood emergencies. Anybody that lives in Charleston, everybody knows on how easy Charleston floods when you have an easterly breeze. We have that persistent band of very heavy rain. So just please be careful. You guys know the drill. Don't do anything dumb. Please don't drive through the water. Remember, the first responders are out there putting their lives on the line as well. So I can't stress that enough. Please don't make them come rescue you. Obviously, there are some issues where we could be talking about those. You have to get on your roof and things like that. Hopefully, it doesn't get that bad. But certainly, when you're talking about upwards of 2 feet of rain, that is what we're talking about. All right, so Johnny Blade, new here. Thank you for finding the stream. We're going to talk about Wilmington, and right now I believe it's kind of quiet. We just have a couple of scattered showers on the northern end of Debby, but we are going to look at that model for you. And Tucker, we're going to look at the model for you too. So we've got a couple of questions about Savannah, and we have a couple of questions about Wilmington. So let me get back to the forecast computer with the model in there, and we're gonna play this out. And again, if you were just joining us, this model so far has done very, very well. Let me turn on the towns real quick so you know where we're looking at here. Stand by just 1 second, and then I'm going to put this model into motion. So for our friends around Savannah first, this is going to be where we are tonight, and it's doing a good job, again, picking up on those mini breaks, as our friend mentioned, again, just kind of in and out. The breaks do not last long. And notice, again, where you see those arrows kind of spinning, that's the center of low pressure. And then we finally start to see at least the heaviest stuff move north of Savannah by tomorrow morning. The deal is then all of that moisture moves up into South Carolina in a very, very big shield of rain. So Charleston, Myrtle Beach, we are getting pounded. There's still going to be some scattered downpours in and around Savannah, and you see some of it kind of pinwheels back. Somebody asked about the GFS, its model. So at this point, the center is now back over the water. And this is a really terrible scenario for Charleston. Again, this is at this point not a hurricane by any means. We're getting the freshwater flooding with the very heavy rain potentially, and I mean likely. But now we have that center of low pressure to our south, which gives us that southeasterly and easterly push of water. So we might end up seeing some tidal saltwater flooding, some storm surge into Charleston as well. So we don't like the fact that that area of low pressure from Debby gets back out over the southeast corner of the Atlantic Ocean. All right, so let's move up for our friend in Wilmington. Here's kind of the deal. This is going to be 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning. We start to get some of the heaviest rain to push in. A lot of it there is still pinwheeling around you. And notice how it just doesn't move. And then according to this model, again, which I trust, this is our in-house model. It has done very well with Debby to date. It pretty much nailed the landfall area. And you see the heavy rain starting to get back into the Wilmington area Wednesday, Thursday, some scattered stuff on Tuesday. Now, what does that mean for the rainfall? So let me get you back to the model. This is going to be out through Thursday. And again, anywhere you see the purple and white is big time rain. Now, Wilmington, we are on the southern side of that. We're going to have to watch for any kind of adjustments in the banding features from Debby. But it does look like the heaviest of the rain, relatively speaking, is going to be closer to Oak Island and then the South Carolina, North Carolina border. So Wilmington, again, this is just the model picking up an inch. You're likely going to get more, especially as we move into Thursday and Friday. So this only goes out to Thursday. It starts to nudge up the mid-Atlantic coast a little bit more. But look at that, Myrtle Beach, I mean, in just along the North Carolina line, we're talking 17 inches of rain, maybe even more, 21 inches. Moncks Corner, about 14 inches. Orangeburg, a foot, give or take. Fairfax, about 9 inches. So there's a lot of rain coming over these next couple of days, and I mean, a lot of that's going to fall in a short amount of time. So I hope that kind of gives you some kind of idea of what could potentially be coming our way. All right, so let me get back to the comments, and then we'll kind of push forward on some of the let's see here. What's up, my man? He says hello. Thanks for being there for this. East Coast Florida kind of got out of this one. Got just over and in, so hopefully that was some beneficial rain. The East Coast needed the rain. I hate that it's all, like, consolidated to one spot, but it was nice. It was nice to get a little bit of rain anyway on the East Coast. Port Orange, it's kind of like we were calling it practice almost. Just, okay, make sure you're prepared. And it was just kind of that very, very, again, low-end tropical storm for Florida. The peninsula, different story in the Big Bend because they obviously got the hurricane. And then as we moved into where we are now, it's going to be the rain. So, again, it's not even – you can't even really just focus on that it's just a tropical storm at this point because it's just going to be a giant mass just kind of pouring on you guys for the next couple of days. And this is a really good point by Riverstone Cabins. Wet ground, tall trees, wind not good. We talked about how obviously the wind is backed off because of the obviously making landfall, but now it does not take a 60-mile-per-hour wind to drop trees whenever you have saturated ground. A 30, 40, 50-mile-per-hour wind gust in these tropical downpours can certainly and all that stuff. Hey, my man, thank you. I appreciate you being here. I'm with you. I agree. And again, thanks for joining the live stream. Johnny Blade says about 16 inches. I'm going to adjust the model for you, and we're going to get that one only goes out to Thursday. So let me do something real quick. I'm going to pull in some graphics, so bear with me here. Because I do want to get you the best information because you're more like Thursday and into Friday. So let me just do some updating real quick, and let me pull in the longer range European model. So bear with me here. This is going to be for Central Florida because that's where we are at. But I'm just gonna back this up real quick, and then we're gonna take this through. So then there you go. So that was, as we mentioned, that we showed you through Thursday, and then so this is now going to be really from Thursday to Saturday is going to be your heaviest stuff. Let me pull out the telestrator or my my interactive dabber here. And then we can get back, and let me turn on the town. Sorry, we're kind of doing this in real time because I did want to give you guys, if you're watching from North Carolina especially, to give you some of the best information that I can in terms of that heavy rain. So now this is going to be the European model, and this is going to go out through Saturday. It's probably actually going to go out until next Tuesday. This is going to go out the full time. So this is really from Thursday now until Saturday with a little bit of this in Wilmington. And then there's the European talking about 9 inches of rain, give or take. And I will say, again, with the European, it's a bigger grid scale, so it's going to miss some of the mesoscale banding features in this. So, I mean, you could easily get 14 inches of rain into that. I will bring in the excessive rainfall graphic and this is from NOAA here, and this is going to be for Wednesday, I believe. You got to change. I've got the mask for Florida. Again, we're based out of Central Florida, so I had it for I had some of the non-Florida stuff just to getting into Georgia and the Carolinas for the next few days. So, and then there you go. So this is now the excessive rainfall look for Wednesday. So starting on Wednesday in Wilmington, I think I was saying Thursday before, starting on Wednesday, I have all my days screwed up from all the coverage, so apologies for that. This is the excessive rainfall outlook now for Wednesday. I showed you for tomorrow, and it's basically the same place. So another high risk for Wilmington, Carolina Beach, Oak Island, into Jacksonville. So starting on Wednesday, it's really going to be your time up, unfortunately, in Wilmington to make sure that you're paying attention, and then that could last all the way through Friday. So I hope that was helpful for you. Awesome. You're welcome, Johnny Blade. Appreciate you guys. Keep the questions coming. Again, this live stream is possible because of you guys. And again, we're coming at you live on the Just Weather channel. If you're out of the Central Florida area, you might be watching us on News 6 Plus. Thanks for doing that. And then also on clickorlando.com. That is home base for your Central Florida weather. So welcome to you guys as well, of course. All right. Without further ado, how long have we been on here? About 30 minutes. We're going to talk about kind of the future. I know all weather forecasting is kind of the future, but we're gonna get in it. And we're going to look, I got to find, I'm a person that has like a million tabs open, and if you could see my computer right now, I've got tabs everywhere. This brings me to my next point. Monday, if you're new to the channel, first of all, welcome, and if you're finding this informative, we'd love to have you on board. So there's my shameless plug to get you guys to subscribe as we are growing this weather community. And again, can't do this without you guys because you guys are kind of the eyes and ears and some of the storm reports, and it was, again, great talking to everybody yesterday, getting that information so that we could pass it along to others. But every Monday we do this Tropics Watch Live during hurricane season. But I also sent out a free newsletter on the tropics. So right after this, I'm going to write up the newsletter. If you are interested in that, it's a free newsletter. You can scan that QR code, or you can go to clickorlando.com. Again, we're based out of Central Florida for those that are finding the stream outside of the Florida area. Clickorlando.com/newsletters. Just put your email in, sign up for free. And you can do that as well. And then if you need to get a hold of me, I am very responsive into the comment section of YouTube via email and Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. Again, can't do it without you guys, so I appreciate all of you tuning in. Mentioned elsewhere in the headlines that the Hurricane Center has something else highlighted. Now, it's a weak tropical wave. It's hanging out in the eastern Caribbean. It's right here, just to the west of the Lesser Antilles, just north of South America. The development zone here is going to be in the central and western Caribbean through the Yucatan and then into the Bay of Campeche, southwest Gulf of Mexico area. So almost a very similar path to Beryl. If you were with us prior to the hurricane season, we really talked about this Caribbean activity and that Texas was likely going to be a hot spot. Florida, of course, it sticks out and it's pretty much a hot spot almost every year, but that those were going to be the two big really areas in addition to the Caribbean islands, because that's what we typically see in a developing La Nina coming out of a strong El Nino, which is what we had last year, and a very, very strong Bermuda high. So this is what we're going to watch over the next 7 days for possible tropical development. That's on our radar there. And then to kind of end some of the long-range stuff, well, I'll show you some of the long-range computer forecast, but we're going to go out into the Pacific. And you may be wondering, okay, who cares about the Pacific? Well, there's a method to my madness here. Here's the satellite of the Pacific. Now, we've documented this as well on the channel, that it has been historically quiet on the Pacific side. Okay, so that's not good news for the Atlantic, because typically when the Pacific is really quiet, the Atlantic is active, and it means that we have the forcing on the opposite basin. What we have going on here, we have 4 named storms. We have Fabio, Amelia, Daniel, and Carlotta out there, all born from something known as the Madden-Julian Oscillation. So there's this big blob of convection, showers and thunderstorms, that goes around the globe every 30 to 60 days, and it can either enhance tropical activity or suppress it. So over the last couple of weeks, where there have been a ton of comments saying like, oh, the hurricane season on the Atlantic side is a dud, we kept on saying, no, this big quiet stretch, we are typically very quiet in July, but it was also helped out by the suppressed phase of the Madden-Julian Oscillation, and I'll show you what I'm talking about in just 1 second. But now the enhanced phase of that cluster of thunderstorms is moving through the Pacific. Give it another week or two, and it's going to be moving through the Atlantic basin. It's going to help to scour out all of that dust. It's going to limit wind shear, and it's going to promote rising motion, which are all ingredients that thunderstorms need. And then eventually, if they're out there long enough and can take advantage of that, we get the tropical system. So I wanted to show you that. Now I'm going to bring up a model here, and this is kind of going to show you what I'm talking about a little bit. And there's a lot going on here, so we're going to kind of walk through this. So each one of those little slivers that you see here, this is basically going to be the rising motion forecast. And when you see green, you would expect an uptick in thunderstorms, okay? So each sliver of these is a week in time. On the left side of your screen here is Africa. It's kind of like the Earth kind of splat right there in at the cross-section of the tropics. Here is the South Pacific. Here is South America. Here's Mexico and the Caribbean, Central America. And then here's the western side of Africa. So most of the Atlantic basin right now is still in the brown. And this is what makes, I think, and you're going to see in my newsletter that's coming up in about, I guess, an hour as soon as we get off of here. We had Debby become a hurricane when the Atlantic isn't ready to support storms just yet. And we also have that next wave out there that was also convectively active, had a lot of thunderstorms around when the Atlantic isn't quite ready to handle or hold or support these storms just yet. Notice this date here. So this is going to be through August 10th, this second sliver. We get that green. And notice, back up. See, I got ahead of myself. See that little green bullseye right here? This is the Eastern Pacific. That is the rising motion that helped to birth these guys here, okay? So there's kind of like some verification for you to show you what I'm talking about. Now watch what happens we have some brown over Africa, but that green starts to move into the Caribbean. So this can enhance that wave that's out there right now. So by the 10th to 14th, the next 5 to 7, 8 days, we could be looking at some tropical issues in the Western Caribbean, Yucatan, maybe as far north as South Texas. Now look what happens. This is through August 15th down here. Note the green expanding through the Caribbean, even a little bit in the main development region in between the Lesser Antilles and Africa. Now look at this. This is August 20th. We have a whole lot of green. This is through August 25th, even more green. Look at all of this now through Africa. So the African wave train is really expected to uptick, and that's those tropical waves rolling off of Africa as we get into the third week of August. As it moves in the second week of August, it normally takes a little bit of time for it to happen. And all the way down here, this is now going to be through September 8th. We still have a standing wave, as we call it. So just kind of a flurry of activity as we have this big, gigantic ball of rising motion all the way through. And then finally, hopefully, we get all that brown back. So that's going to be September 14th. So it's my hope, and I don't know if you can see that because I kind of run off the screen. It's my hope that after we get beyond September 10th, we take a nice big break again. But it is likely going to be a pretty active stretch starting on, really starting again on with Debby, with this other thing, and then really beyond August 15th. I think it starts to go a little nuts out there, unfortunately. Let's pull up the comments again. So stand by. Scrooge McDuck, thank you for that report. He says 10 inches of rain in the past 48 hours here at my house in Ocala. Hey, thanks, Corey. I appreciate that, my friend. Thanks for being here on the live stream. Thanks, Melissa, as always. So Jason's asking, so Florida will continue to get bans from this as it slows down through Central Florida. We will in Central Florida, but it's not going to be significant. Just some quick hitting downpours and tropical gusts and stuff. But by and large, we're it's not going to be anything like our friends in the Carolinas and Georgia are going to see. MT85, crazy amount of flooding in Sarasota. One of our producers that works here, her family lives in Sarasota. She's from there, and she made the comment that it was way worse in Sarasota with Debby than it was with Ian because we got under that big training thunderstorm band from Debby, and it just kept on raining. Alrighty, guys. Hey, I want to thank you again for tuning in. We're going to wrap this up. I got to work on the newsletter. So, if you guys are interested in that, click orlando.com/newsletters. And if you are interested, again, in keeping up with the tropics and kind of learning about the meteorology behind it and the science, we do some of the long-range stuff. And, again, we talk about the short-term impacts like we just did earlier in the live stream. Do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Again, can't do this channel without you. I appreciate you guys a ton. You guys are our eyes and ears in the field whenever we're getting some things, and it's nice to have you guys around, and it's nice to have the conversation and to hear your thoughts as well. So that's the stuff that I like, although, again, I don't like coming at you when we're talking about a potential catastrophe on our hands with all the flooding. So we're certainly thinking about you guys in the Carolinas and Georgia and North Florida and the Big Bend, where we did take significant damage from Debby's landfall and now the flooding side of this. So please, everybody, just be safe, be smart. In the Carolinas, in Georgia, in Florida, don't go through flooded roadways. Don't put the first responders' lives at risk that would have to come and rescue you if you do drive through. Again, make sure you're vigilant and just make sure you're keeping it easy, listening to local officials and things like that. Every Monday, we do Tropics Watch Live at 8 p.m. Eastern. If you're interested in that, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, and we will catch you guys next time. Really appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate the support. Be safe out there, everyone. We'll see you soon.